He was shocked and horrified to see what's surrounding him, and his stomach churned and twisted from the smell and sight. His baby blue eyes were wide and small as a tiny pea when he saw the crimson red dripping in his hands and body. His heart was beating against his chest at a very high speed as he was overcome by shock and horror. Tears slowly formed in his widened eyes, soaking his bloody orange mask and mixing it in with the metallic taste from the crimson red in his mouth, creating a disgusting taste. Soft yet concerned mews reached to him, and his shocked, wide eyes looked over to find his partner's tiny little legs smeared with the same substance as he was covered in. But he didn't care, since he gently scooped her up into his arms, which made her purr. The smell lingered in the atmosphere in an attempt to choke him, but he managed to bear with it. His focus was on the one and with the most uneasy expression on her face, which looked like she was about to be sick from the fear and upsetness that was twisting and forming in her stomach. Pinkie Pie. The pink pony's ears flicked down as she tried to scrape the now dried blood off her shoes to avoid it being seen, but to no avail. Gummy felt the same way as he saw the horrified expression on Sunday's face, despite the Skitty's naturally adorable face. Both Pony and Pokemon watched in shock as the turtle and his kitten Pokemon took in what was going on around them. Pinkie Pie, what's going on? Mikey's words were above a whisper as he stared at her, shocked to the core. Pinkie Pie smiled nervously and tried to come up with an excuse when something tumbled out of her dress and appeared into the dim light. Her face seemed drained of color when she saw the pizza charm shining in the light before she tried to put it back into hiding. But it was too late, as Mikey already saw it, and he turned his direction to find the skeletal pony standing next to his pastel brother, holding the cupcake necklace. The hot pink sparkling glow was enough to get the party turtle to realize what had happened. Pinkie Pie gulped nervously, and Gummy was shivering from fear. Both of them knew they were busted.
Mikey, Sunday, I'm sure there's a perfect logical explanation.
Her sentence was put to a stop when she saw the shocked expression on the turtle's face, with tears streaming down his cheeks, along with the blood mixed with them. Pinkie Pie, why? Mikey's question nearly sent the pink pony's heart to stop beating. Sunday had the same expression on her face, which made the male Desert Croc Pokemon look down scared. Pinkie Pie swallowed the biggest lump in her throat before bringing her eyes to meet Mikey's returned baby blue ones.
Well, Mikey, we were showing them the pain they gave you for so long.
Pinkie's voice was shaking, and her eyes were wide, only for them to widen further when Mikey and Sunday's faces became angry. You put me under a spell to cause this. His voice was barely a whisper, but it was enough for Pinkie to hear. Pinkie Pie knew there was no point in coming up with an excuse anymore. She looked at the turtle with determined eyes, and hoping she could get the turtle to understand.
I know I shouldn't have but my favorite pizza. You knew you could never bring yourself to harm them, so I had to do something to help you.
Her words were almost sugar-coated, but at the same time they were not. Nonetheless, that only fueled Mikey's anger towards her, as well as Sunday's anger towards not only Hingami, but his trainer too. Pinkie Pie, I wanted to show them I was in pain from their actions, but not like this! He had his voice filled with anger and slowly breaking down into crying. Sunday already had tears streaming down her furry cheeks, and she was already angry at Gummy, even through her cute appearance. Pinkie looked dead straight into Mikey's eyes and said,
They had it coming. After all the neglect and pain, and most of all, abuse they had towards you. They had to see in one way or another, especially him.
She nearly screeched at the last part when she pointed a hoof towards Raph. Mikey turned to look at his brother when his baby blue eyes widened in surprise. Sunday, Pinkie, and Gummy followed his gaze and were surprised as the turtle. The skeletal pony's horn was glowing in light yellow magic, and she was hovering above Raph's limp body. The wounds, scars, and bruises he had endured during his torturing assessment were glowing the same color as her magic before tiny dots were lifting up and disappearing along with the many injuries he had on his body. The skeletal pony was healing Raph, much to Pinkie and Gummy's shock, but to Mikey and Sunday's relief. The others around them were watching as well, as their hearts were beating with hope. Mikey turned back to Pinkie with the same look of anger on his face. I may want to show them the pain, but never actually kill them, he growled. His tears were slowly coming to a stop when he saw the pizza-sliced chain necklace around her neck, and his eyes widened in shock. Realizing what Pinkie really intended to do made his blood come to a boil. Unaware, his hands began to glow a bright orange until the sound of sparking electricity reached his ears. He didn't care. He glared at the pink pony, which made Pinkie Pie cower back a bit, since she knew Mikey's rage and anger was rare. You intended to kill my family and have me marry you, didn't you? His claim had completely drained the color from Pinkie's face, giving away the answer to his question. His blush appeared on his cheeks, but not as much as from before, while his tears began welling up again. I love you, my sweet cupcake, but you're not the Pinkie Pie I love. It was one of the worst things he could have said, because Pinkie Pie stood there, stunned and wide-eyed with shock. It was like time had stopped around them. The pink pony could almost hear the shattering sounds of glass, and the pain in her heart combined with them. Mikey, however, wasn't done. The Pinkie Pie I love would never bring harm to others, even if they caused harm to the ones you love and care about, unless it's absolutely necessary, or they beg you not to. I may have hatred for the things my brothers had done to me, but I still love them no matter what. But Pinkie Pie, killing them was never my intention to get them to see the pain I had endured for so long. I love you so very much, Pinkie Pie, but the way you are now, I don't know who you are anymore. He could feel his heart breaking from each of those words he said, and he knew it was the truth. Sunday purred and nuzzled him before the party turtle relaxed his electrical powers so they don't lose control. But he could not stop the glowing lights surrounding him. I would marry you, Pinkie Pie, but not with you as a monster. Raph could hear the muffled voices and sounds around him. He winced in pain that came from the aching in his head. His eyes carefully cracked open, only to be met with blurry shapes. But he could see the blurry colors on each shape. He took a huge deep breath to breathe, only to realize he has no problem breathing. In fact, most of the pain except his mind was gone. When he realized this, his electric green eyes opened, and his vision had cleared up immediately. What he saw next was something he wasn't expecting at all. The same furry, white and empty black, hollow-eyed face was looking into him, with its horn lighting up with light yellow magic before it faded. When it pulled away and moved out of his sight, he saw what was happening. What he saw next nearly made his mind blown. He didn't want to believe it, but the pizza slice and 2 nunchuck blades cutie mark, slightly covered by the wings, the lime green coat, the short orange mask, the ninja gear covered in dried blood, and most of all, the baby blue eyes was enough to make Raph believe that it was truly his brother, in a different form. He was seeing the serious and sad expression on his baby brother's face. He knew for sure Mikey found out what happened. Raph wanted to call out to Mikey to make sure it was really him, but he stopped himself. He knew Mikey didn't want to be around him, not after the pain he had caused him. His heart had registered the unbearable truth, and he couldn't bear looking at his brother. That was until the sound of wings flapping in the air reached to him. The feel of a hoof being placed on his chin was enough to make him look at who it was. His electric green eyes welled up in tears when he saw the forgiving smile on his little brother's face and the relieved look in his baby blue eyes. On his back, he could see the small Skitty staring at him with the uneasy but relieved expression on her face. "Welcome back, Aniki." Raph knew Aniki meant big brother in Japanese, and it was the sign this was the baby brother he remembered. He attempted to lift his arms in an attempt to hug him, but his arms were still strapped down. The newly party Pegasus smiled before reaching his hooves towards the metal straps. He was close to freeing his brother when...
"Your brothers, sisters, and friends may still be living, Michelangelo. But you are still mine!"
The loud shriek of Pinky's voice bounced off the walls of the building when the most shocking thing happened. A bright hot pink aura began glowing around the faded dark pink pony and her Krokorok before being engulfed in bright hot pink magic with the hints of darkness in it. Everyone watched in shock and horror as the duo were trapped inside the swirling magic. In moments to what felt like forever to Mikey, the magic bursted into sparkles to reveal 2 new horrifying nightmares. The bloody clothing she once wore was gone, but she still kept on the forgotten hot pink rose barrette, the pizza slice charm and chained necklace. Her coat was now dark magenta raspberry, and her flat mane and tail had become a dark hot pink color. The 3 balloons cutie mark didn't seem like balloons anymore, as they had become black with dark pink eyes on them, making them look like skulls made into balloons. Gummy's tan body had become a very dark gray color, with a black stomach and a dark pink back. All of his thick stripes and triangle spikes all over him were no longer black, but now a bright hot pink. His once 3 white claws had grown long, jagged, and black, with more sharpness than 20 knives. His flat feet still had 3 claws, but were just like his hand and claws. His small eyes were glowing hot pink, with hot pink magic and streaks flickering on the sides of his eyes like fire. The 4 revealing teeth in his jaws remained white, but had grown slightly longer and become sharper like his claws. Gummy's hot pink collar cat-like band had turned darker, and the 3 balloons cutie mark attached to the left side like a tag had become the same resemblance of his trainer's new cutie mark look. The most horrifying thing was the barely seeable lines and stitches on Pinkie Pie's legs, neck, body, and across her face. Her face was contorted into a wide, horrific, crazy grin on her face, and her still bright cerulean blue eyes were glowing dangerously with the same hot pink fire streaks flickering on the sides of her eyes. Everyone in the room nearly had a look of terror on their faces when Pinkie Pie pointed her right hoof and out of nowhere made rope appear and strike towards Mikey and Sunday. The ninja Pegasus tried to hurry and tried to free Raph, but the rope had grabbed him very quickly and pulled him away. Sunday tried to do the same, only for a hot pink aura to surround her and pull her away from the red-masked turtle, then land into Gummy's arms. Mikey was tied up in a chair that came out of nowhere in seconds, and he started to struggle to get free. Pinkie Pie, let us go! He demanded. The crazed doll-like pony giggled insanely before turning her attention to the skeletal pony, who was now in position to fight.
Easy there. Just give me back my necklace and we'll let the prisoners go without any more scratches and wounds.
She laughed with crazed eyes while Gummy grunted in agreement before tightening his grip on the tiny skitty to cease her struggles to get free. Pinkie Pie, what do you want with Mikey? Pinkie Pie nearly froze from the question by Leo. She turned her attention away from the skeleton pony and made her way to the injured and scared blue-masked turtle. Leo was starting to feel his heart beat against his chest as soon as he saw the pink pony become way too close to his comfort.
Why?
She emphasized his tooth with surprise. He gulped back a scream, crawling his throat before a giggle left the crazed doll pony.
How silly of you, Leo! You forgot why? But I'll tell you.
Her voice had venom in it, which made the blue leader look away, scared. The dark mare cleared her voice and looked at everybody besides Leo.
The night Mikey took me in, I was nervous and scared. Then it was because of the pain I was going through. When I realized he wasn't going to hurt me, but take care of me, I became attached to Mikey, and I suddenly began to feel the pain he had to endure from all of you. I managed to free my voice from that potion I had to endure, so I can cheer on for him. Over the days, he told me every single little tiny thing about each and every one of you. I ain't tell you all, except you, Kofu.
She stopped talking for a moment and turned to the dark-masked female turtle, who backed away as much as possible to avoid the pink mare getting any close to her. Pinkie Pie didn't mind, and her smile grew wider then continued.
I hate how all of you treated Mikey like he wasn't worth anything to you. He saved you all sometimes and then tried his best to help you all laugh and feel better, only for you all to treat him like trash in return. He told me every single thing about himself. How he loved to party and do victory dances after every battle he won. How he loved and very treat that he enjoys so very much. And how he tried to show off his skills to you all. Oh, that he can be very good at sometimes. Just like me. We both have so much in common. And we comforted each other through his toughest times. Which eventually made me realize that I was falling in love with Mikey.
She turned away from Leo and trotted over to the orange-masked Pegasus pony, who had a red blush but a shocked expression. His mouth hung open as he stared at the crazed pony.
Our hearts joined together, and now we're almost at the age we can be married in peace. Until Rav threw me out like garbage, he calls me.
Pinky said Raph's name with venom in her voice, making the red-masked turtle flinch, but he returned her a glare of anger. Ollie looked at Pinky with a confused yet shocked expression. Then why are you trying to kill us? His question sounded rhetorical to Pinkie Pie, but before Gummy could walk towards him, Sunday cried out as she was saying no. Pinky realized she didn't explain that part. She sighed and expressed in a less insane but honest tone.
It's really obvious, Oliver.
She smirked, her eyes flaring with more fiery magic.
I'm teaching you, party pooper fools, a lesson on what happens when you mess with the princess of fairy Pokemon, and what happens when you harm the ones or things I love so dearly, very much with all my heart.
Her voice contorted into what seemed to be a voice of something demonic. She turned away and faced Mikey with what seemed to be a smile of insane love and gentleness mixed together. She reached out her clawed hoof and caressed his face, being careful not to harm the Pegasus with her dangerous magic, only to have him jerk his head away to hide the blush and yet scared expression. This was certainly not the pink pony Michelangelo Hamato fell in love with. What do you want from me? He whimpered, his baby blue eyes tearing up. Pinky saw the tears, and even though a part of her felt so very sorry for putting the turtle she loved so much through this, but it was pushed away by the insane love and thoughts she had going on in her head. Pinky leaned forward and whispered just enough for everyone to hear.
You,
she whispered slowly.
I want you to be my king of Pokemon.
Michelangelo felt his stomach twist and his heart drop into it. He loved Pinkie Pie, and he wants to be with her. But is this truly her? No! Never! He cried out. That was his biggest mistake. The doll-like pony's smile switched into an angry frown before her voice dropped to the whisper.
Have at it then,
she cooed before the aura around her flared up in a blaze of hot pink fiery magic. In an instant, large bursts of hot pink magic flew from Pinkie Pie's sides and landed right at everyone's sides. Pinkie Pie somehow teleported herself, Gummy, Sunday, and Mikey away from the group as the bursts of magic disappeared to reveal more Pokemon. You gotta be kidding me! More Pokemon! Casey yelled out of nowhere. He tried to scoot away, only to be clawed by the Pokemon next to him, which made him grunt and hiss in pain. Pinkie Pie had giggled at the painful expression on Casey's face before saying,
My Clefairy, cotton candy, this is not good. And when you insult her or her friends.
Pinkie giggled with a sing-song tone in her voice. She turned away to look at Mikey, and somehow out of nowhere, music began to play.
My dearest Michelangelo, you know that I'm super fond of my powers, and I'm justly proud. My dearest Michelangelo, you know that my love for you, the kind of love that only you're allowed. Then tell me, my savory pizza, why you always haunt my dreams, why your fun and playful eyes burn through my soul.
She stroked her hoof into Mikey's light orange mane as tears were forming in his baby blue eyes, but nonetheless, Pinkie continued to sing.
I want you I need you. The moon caught in your peachy mane, enchants me in a way I don't control. Like fun, your silliness is driving me crazy. Your warm heart and sweetness are causing me such pain.
Raph didn't know how much longer Mikey could last, and the dark hot pink Pokemon next to him, ready to attack him if necessary, wasn't helping one bit. "Your trainer is really sick, you know that?" He shouted. He quickly shut his mouth when he saw the Pokemon taking a huge breath and puffed up like a beach ball or balloon. Pinkie Pie turned to him with a fake, fruitful expression.
It's not my fault, she claimed, and my Jigglypuff Lollipop doesn't like it when you call me sick.
"You monster!" And Casey snarled. He growled under his breath, only to jump back when Cotton Candy threatened to claw him with her small claws. Pinkie Pie growled and said,
I'm not to blame when you're making Cotton Candy and Lollipop and all my other Pokemon mad with your insults and blames.
She let out a mad giggle which made April look at her with rage.
You filthy beast!
She cried out. Suddenly she gave out a cough when a very way too sweet smell filled her nose. The Pokemon next to her smirked at the expression the teenage girl gave. The doll-like pony's smile grew wider.
Marshmallow, my aroma tease, usually loves it when you give expressions of joy of her sweet smell.
She chimed before her expression turned crazed with anger again. And
yet I should have known. Everybody is always the same.
She looked at everybody else while her Pokemon were charging up their attacks.
It's not my fault,
she deemed. "Need to let him go!" Donnie yelled.
We had a deal, right, Cupcake the Slurpuff?
She squealed a little bit. The purple-masked turtle turned to find the cake-like dark Pokemon smirk and nodded, pointing towards Pinkie's neck, directly at the pizza slice chain, a necklace. "Dumb mule!" Raph yelled. Just as he said those words, Pinkie was already right up at his face with the dark, angry look in her eyes that could almost kill him.
The moment he put on my necklace, his fate was sealed!
She hissed angrily. She was about to hit Raph when a sniffle caught her hearing. She turned her gaze away from the red-masked turtle to look at Mikey, who was looking down with tears streaming down his cheeks. She also saw Gummy holding back Sunday when the tiny Skitty reached for him. She bounced away from Raph and over to the green and orange Pegasus with a loving but insane look in her eyes.
Forgive me, my savory slice. I had to see you cry. I hate to see you cry like this. Don't think that you are forced to be my groom. Just say that you accept me. So we'll live in eternal bliss and rule at home together side by side.
"No! Stop it, Pinkamena!" Mikey yelled. Pinkie Pie's eyes widened in surprise that Michelangelo used her actual name. "You can't have my heart! Not like this!" He choked with tears streaming down onto the floor.
What?
Pinkie squeaked with disbelief. Mikey looked at her with the expression of hurt and plead in his baby blue eyes. "You've become crazy, as they say. I can never be yours with you like this." He was really starting to break down as he choked back his cries. Pinkie Pie didn't want to believe this. He didn't mean it, did he? No, he couldn't mean it.
"But Michelangelo, I love you,"
she whimpered. You have a not funny way of showing it," Mikey snapped. Pinkie Pie's eyes shrunk to the size of a strawberry when her face contorted into anger and the magic in her eyes flared up into a blaze. She placed her hoof under Mikey's chin and turned him to face her.
"I'll have you one way or another, my savory pizza!" She hissed. Even if I have to let my Pokemon destroy the others!
Her voice echoed through the building walls before she snapped her attention to her Pokemon.
Cotton candy, lollipop, marshmallow, cupcake, Sylvie, creamy, prepare your attacks!
Her commands made her Pokemon nod with dark looks in their eyes, and they began charging their powerful moves. Mikey's eyes widened up in horror, as well as his brothers, sisters, and friends. Sunday sensed the horror and fear in our trainer, and she began to struggle more. Pinkie Pie giggled madly and looked dead straight into Mikey's eyes.
With sweetness you'll cherish and honor me each day. Choose me, or they perish. Be mine, or the others pay.
Mikey, he looked at Pinkie into her cerulean burning eyes with his baby blue watering ones. Please have mercy on them. Please have mercy on me. Pinkie's heart fluttered a bit from Mikey singing to her, only for it to be pushed back. She smiled her crazed signature smile, which nearly sent chills down Mikey's back.
But she will be mine, or they will...
Stop! Mikey could no longer take it and shouted loud enough to cause the music to stop immediately, which also caused everyone in the room to jump, since they never heard Mikey shout like that before. Pinkie and Gummy nearly fell to the floor, but managed to keep their balance and looked at him, while Pinkie Pie's Pokemon stopped charging their attacks and turned their attention to him too. Now everybody was paying attention to Mikey. The lime, green, orange-masked Pegasus was choking back cries and sniffling back tears as he hung his head to avoid the surprised gaze from the pink pony. Please, he pleaded in a hushed tone. Don't hurt them. I beg of you, Pinkamena. I'll do. He didn't want to say it or do it, but the lives of the others were on the line because of him. Without lifting his head, his eyes were closed, but it did not stop the falling tears dripping down his chin and onto the floor in a whispered tone where everybody could hear. I'll do it. The turtles felt their hearts drop and shatter from hearing those 3 words. Karai, Casey, and April had the look of shock on them. Even if April was rude and harsh, she didn't want Mikey to do what he was going to do. Pinkie smiled slyly and averted her eyes towards Leo, Ollie, and Karai's direction, and straight looked at the 2 Pokemon standing beside them.
Sylvie, my Sylveon, and Creamy, my sweet Ruby Swirl, all Creamy, would you 2 be super duper sweethearts and get the others, please?
Both Pokemon nodded and walked away from the 3 eldest siblings. All 6 Pokemon moved away from everybody and made their way back to their trainer, with Mikey watching in shame. Sunday reached forward as much as she could in Gummy's arms and gently nuzzled Mikey's hoof. Pinkie Pie looked at Mikey and kept her sly smile.
Anything?
She asked. Mikey breathed and sighed. It's me you want. Leave them out of it, please, he pleaded. Mikey, no! Leo and Ollie called. Don't do it! It's the only way, dudes, he said almost dully. He turned back to the doll-like pony, with his tears slowly drying up. I'll marry you. I'll be your husband, your king, and I won't resist you again. I will stay with you, and I won't fight against you or leave you. Everything will be exactly the way you want it. If you would just spare them, please. He gulped back a lump in his throat. Using whatever freedom his front hooves had, he circled his hard pointed up, and placed it over his eye while saying, "Cross my heart, hope to jump."
No!
Kofu cried.
My sibling promise, brother!
Stick a chopstick in my eye, Mikey finished. He looked at his younger sister with shame and apologetically before lowering his head. Please, just leave them alone. Pinky stared at him, searching for any sign of trickery or lie that could get him to go free and escape with the others, but she found none. She chuckled throatily, and the magic flaring around her eyes and the aura surrounding her cooled down to a minimum.
That's better,
she cooed. She reached her left hoof over to her side before she moved her long mane to reveal a white saddlebag resting on her back. She unclipped the balloon cutie mark clip and flipped open the bag and looked at each of her Pokemon with a gentle look.
Come on, everybody, return to your Pokeballs now. Oh, please.
In red flashes, all of her Pokemon disappeared into red lights and vanished into the bag. She turned her gaze back onto Mikey and undid the chains or rope. When the Pegasus was freed, he walked over and gently took his Skitty, a Pokemon, from the Krokorok's arms. In a sudden bright white flash, the Pegasus was gone, and standing in his place was his true turtle form. He no longer had the bloodstains on him, but the tear stains stayed.
Oh no,
Pinky said, rubbing her chin.
I would like some sort of proof that you will hold your vow.
Mikey looked at her, confused and ashamed. What could she want as proof? How am I? He started to speak, but he stopped when the pink mare walked over to him and lifted his chin so he could look at her.
How about a kiss?
Mikey's eyes went wide, and a massive red blush exploded on his cheeks, as well as his heart began beating fast as a subway train. A kiss? Everyone exclaimed in shock. The orange-masked and turtle was frozen in place, and would have fallen if Pinky had not stood up on her back legs and wrapped her arms around him. In front of... He stopped himself from finishing, as he knew what he said, and what he would say. He gulped and bit his lip. This would be his very first kiss to the one he loves. But is she truly the pony he loved? Defeated, he closed his eyes and began to lean towards her. Over at the metal table, Raphael was trying to free himself from the metal straps since they had weakened thanks to Mikey trying to help. Just as Mikey's lips were inches away from Pinky, the straps broke off with loud, clanking pops, and Raph jumped off. He growled and looked straight at his target with his fists ready. Don't you dare touch him! He shouted at the last part before darting straight towards the doll-like pony. Pinkie Pie moved away from her prize and narrowed her eyes at Raph, which caused the blue flaring magic around her eyes to burn and flare up.
I've had enough of you, ruthless, brutal fools!
She shouted. She jumped down from her back legs and instead stood on her front legs, raising her back legs, ready to strike. Mikey gasped in shock.
Raph! Pinky, no!
But neither of them stopped what they were doing. Promise or no promise, he could not let his brother suffer a broken rib cage. Without a second thought, he shoved Raph out of the way of Pinky's kick. It all seemed to play out in slow motion, as everyone's eyes widened in horror when a cry was heard as he flew across the room and smashed against the wall, causing massive cracks to form into the cold stone brick. Pinky silently gasped when she saw who she had back-kicked.
No, no,
she muttered, slowly turning around to face him as he slid to the floor, with thankfully no chunks of his shell sticking into the wall. Raph broke off some of his shock and rushed towards his little brother, who had taken the kick that was meant for him. Mikey, are you? He trailed off when he heard a sob. Pinky's eyes shrunk to the size of a pebble when she heard it. She stood there, staring at the turtle with a stunned look in her eyes, and her mouth hung agape, open.
Mikey, I didn't mean...
She stopped her words when she saw the big tears filling in his baby blue eyes. The look he gave her, this look filled with so much fear and horror, killed the pink pony right there. It was as if her world had come crashing down into nothing, and her heart cracked and shattered to bits and pieces when she looked into his eyes. She watched as Raph wrapped his arms around Mikey before she slowly lowered her head to stare at the ground. She could hear Mikey crying in his older brother's arms, but the look she had then seen still lingered. Her eyes gazed down at her hooves, and her own tears began to form.
What have I done?
She said under her breath. Her anger and insane love had driven her so far that she hurt the one she had ever truly loved, after swearing otherwise. She knew from that look that what she had done was unforgivable. He would never love her now or ever again. Even if he did marry her, she would never be seen by him the same way, nor smile for her ever again. It would be miserable for the rest of his days. She only wanted to protect him, but now this is where it got her. She didn't look at her beloved Michelangelo as she heard him burst into tears. She wanted him more than anything in the world, but not like this. Her eyes had watered up with tears before she hung her head. A single tear dripped onto the floor when a light emitted from her chest and spread across the room. It restored everybody. Back to health, with not even a single scratch on them, and releasing them from their prisons. The remaining turtles rushed over and joined Raph, hugging Mikey into a tight hug. Mikey, however, looked up, surprised and confused. The pony no longer looked like a doll horror, but now normal. She walked silently and shamefully to the farthest corner of the room and sat down. Mikey carefully broke free from the hug and stared at her, confused. "Pinky?" he called out, but he heard no response. "Pinky?
Get out!"
She whispered with a grunt. The others did not argue and raced out of the door, but the turtles stopped when they noticed Mikey wasn't following them. They watched their little brother cautiously approach Pinkie Pie, the look of worry and confusion on his face and in his eyes.
"That includes you."
Mikey stopped in his tracks just as Sunday made her way into him and stopped by his side, just as confused and worried as her trainer. What? He looked closer and realized the chain pizza slice necklace was no longer around her neck.
"I released you," she said without turning around. "You're no longer bound to me."
Mikey was more confused than ever as he carefully took a step forward. You're letting me go?" Pinky's lips curled into a growl, but kept it quiet as possible.
"Yes, now go! Before I change my mind."
Her high-pitched voice was still there, but it had grown dull, quiet, and full of sadness. Both were unaware that a certain Pokemon had managed to come out of his Pokeball after hearing what's been going on. Mikey reached out with a hand to her, saying, "But Pinkie Pie,
Are you deaf?"
she bellowed, whirling her head around angrily, just as Gummy appeared next to her, baring his teeth and claws.
"I said go!"
Mikey didn't even then squeak before scooping up Sunday into his arms and ran to the door, seeing Raph waiting for him. In the midst of the running, the skeletal pony was watching from the ceiling, and her magic was used to hold back Gummy, making it easy for the turtles and the teens to escape. Once they were on the entrance of the abandoned parts of New York City, Mikey and Sunday looked back at the building. His head told him to run as far away from the place as possible, but his heart compelled him to stay. "Mikey, come on!" Leo shouted from ahead. He didn't even shout back before taking a glance at the building one last time, and then went after his siblings and friends. He didn't see the pink pony and her desert croc Pokemon peering through the large window. Pinky and Gummy watched Mikey go with Sunday the Skitty until he was out of sight. Tears were falling down from her cheeks as Gummy turned to her with a worried look on his face, yet sadness mixed with it.
"Goodbye, Michelangelo."
That was all Pinky whispered before she turned and saw the skeletal pony approaching her. Without a second thought, she hugged her tightly, burying her face on the shoulder. She didn't even look at her as she felt the skeletal pony's hooves hold her close to her. Pinky loved Mikey too much. That's why she had let him go. Gummy joined in the hug with his trainer and the pony of Bones, both unaware of the skeletal pony staring through the window unknowingly with a sad and a worried expression.
"I'm so sorry, Mama."
The words jolted the pony of Bones from the window, and she turned to the pink mare with a sympathetic aura around her. She gently petted the Pinky's straight mane before her eyes closed, and she let her own tears come down from her empty eyes.